Welcome, everyone, to the Balance Patch Cup here in November. I'm June, joined by the incomparable Keon.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our November Cup. I'm really stoked to cast this along with my great friend June. We're in for it today, and round two.
No, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by we're in for it?
We've got a lot of creative teams here at the Balance Patch Cup, and this first round is by no means an exception to that.
Yeah, we're very, very excited, or at least I'm very, very excited about the two teams that we have prepared for us here. And I think we're going to get started by looking at Kirsten Warco's team.
Yes.
She's going to be on the POV side for our first matchup here in round two. And, a couple of interesting picks, but overall, you would say this is by far the more standard of the two teams that we are going to be seeing here today. Because, somehow. But because you have that Garchomp, that Golden Go, and then, of course, the Kilowattrel with Tailwind. Very, very cool, all of the different options that this team has to hit you offensively.
Yeah, there's a very good combination of Tailwind Setter plus Garchomp, being immune to those Earthquakes, so you can just let off those Life Orb Earthquakes. And the difference here with Kirsten's in particular is the Terra Ground, so you can even go for more of a boost. And then you have that King Gambit running Low Sweep as just an added form of speed control. Safety Goggles, Terra Fire, can't get burnt, can't get slept, and can't get redirected by an Amoonguss. And then a Throat Spray offensive for Farigiraf. That's Terra Psychic. So a lot of damage. It's looking to prevent Trick Room and also do a ton of damage. And then I'll let you talk about the massive duck in the room.
Yeah, and of course the Quaquaval we're very excited about on Kirsten's side too, before we get over to what Dakota's running. But the Quaquaval Assault Vest with the Terra Flying, you get not only the boost for your Brave Birds offensively, but defensively, now you can have your Quaquaval next to your Garchomp. Terra Ground, Earthquake. All right, you wouldn't be able to Terra Ground if you're already Terra Flying in the Quaquaval, but click Earthquakes plus your Aqua Steps, you get the Moxie boosts, and you might think, yeah, I want to bring an Incineroar against this team, but there's a King Gambit there that's Defiant.
Speaking of Incineroar, I think it's time to look at Dakota's team. This is a team. We've got Garganacl and Dozo, screens Ninetales to even increase the staying power. We've got Sneasler with Dire Claw coaching to further boost, create sleep, so much variance here. The Rotom Wash support, and the Assault Vest Incineroar.
Yeah, the Assault Vest Incineroar is something that we are very familiar with, Keon.
Oh, for sure.
I don't think I've seen an Incineroar run Darkest Lariat here in Generation 9. I also don't think I've seen a Terra Fire Incineroar anytime very recently either. Dakota's team, he was very open about it, talking about the kind of building process. Built primarily in conversation with Google Gemini's AI. It's why you would see, the Terra Electric on Rotom, the Terra Fire on Incineroar, pretty standard.
Yeah.
But it's also why you have the Soak on Dondozo.
For the Salt Cures.
For the Salt Cures, for your Freeze Dries, for your Terra Electric Volt Switches. The thing is, yes, there are a lot of very wonky things about Dakota's team. There are a lot of really cool ideas and very sound ideas that he's building off of.
Yeah.
The coaching with Sneasler next to the Unaware Dondozo, extremely strong. You have Garganacl with Recovery. Garganacl loves to be next to Dondozo because the two of them will, Dondozo will force a lot of switches with Yawns. The Garganacl just gets to keep clicking Recover pretty freely in a lot of matchups.
And it's chip on chip. You've got Rocky Helmet and you've got Leftovers. You're going to outpace the opponent no matter what.
And when you're clicking Stealth Rocks with your Garganacl,
oh my goodness,
forcing switches with Dondozo's Yawns, extremely valuable.
Welcome back, Dozo Tinglu. Let's run this set.
We are going to see right away the Rotom Wash next to that Garganacl on Dakota's side, while it is going to be Kilowattrel and Golden Go. A lot of offense coming out for Kirsten right on lead.
Yeah, this is a very interesting lead because there was not much to prevent really the Tailwind to go off from the Kilowattrel aside from maybe that AV Incineroar, but you're kind of scared to lead that in the face of something like that King Gambit. So it's a big mind game to start off with, but let's see where it goes. We start off.
Yeah, and I would think, if I'm in Kirsten's position at least, Tailwind plus a Terra Steel Make It Rain seems pretty safe here. There's no Wide Guard on the Garganacl.
That is true.
It can Terrastalize to get rid of the weakness to Steel moves, but it is not going to do that, and its only option would be to go Terrastalize to a Ghost type, so you wouldn't even resist it. Wind power coming out from Kilowattrel, not competitive like we've seen a lot of times,
And this
but
trick, this is
immediately.
very interesting because if I'm Dakota, or if I'm Kirsten, I'm very much anticipating that Stealth Rock turn 1 because they're built to outpace and just stall out the opponent. So you see all of this. The Rotom going for the Volt Switch into the Goldango, get a little bit of chip down, probably bring in something that's a little bit more well-equipped to handle it, maybe like that Incineroar in the back, now that you have deduced that, oh, okay, Dondozo. we're just going at it. And yes,
And you
the
did get the Stealth Rock play exactly correct. Kirsten playing the long game so much better than I would have, at least in this position.
Yes. And this also gives Kirsten a lot of information. You know one of the third mons already, so now that it is choice locked into that Trick Stealth Rock, you're not going to get any more utility out of that Pokemon aside from folding to a Choice Specs, or Choice Specs is gone, but the Make It Rain. So you can kind of just easily anticipate maybe the Rotom Wash coming in, or perhaps the Incineroar, whatever that fourth could be, but now you're kind of just in this position where you're free to click that Make It Rain without much of a cost.
Yeah, the Make It Rain, and then now the Wind Power boosted Thunderbolt from Kilowattrel as well. There really is nothing on Dakota's side that wants to take that move.
Yeah. And Dondozo just goes for the Protect, kind of scouting out, stalling, maybe making it so that the Make It Rains will do less, but I believe that, in fact, the Dondozo is unaware. So this was only really to stall out a turn of the Tailwind.
Yeah, and if nothing else, we'll also get the Golden Go weaker for whatever eventually comes out next to the Dondozo. But Garganacl, choice specs locked into Stealth
He
Rocks.
does not care.
Exactly what we were hoping when we picked this match for stream.
Oh, yeah.
Important to note, too, the charge now has worn off on Kilowattrel. You only get that for the first time you click the move, and I believe it does go away even if you attack into a Protect.
So this is me, the caster, learning wind power mechanics as it is happening on stream, because I have not played enough Kilowattrel to really know that. But now we see the switch in going for the Rotom now that you've deduced, yeah, I want this Garganacl to do more late game.
Yep, the Dondozo going to Terrabug here. It feels pretty important to not just fold to a Thunderbolt from the Kilowattrel, and especially if I'm mistaken about the charge mechanic, and the Kilowattrel still does have that double-powered Thunderbolt coming out this turn.
But it's going into the Rotom.
And yes, so we can see that was absolutely not charged up. Mm-hmm. And with the Rotom being a water type, Dondozo, even ignoring the boosts from, or the drops from Make It Rain, still takes that pretty well, fires back a clean 2-hit KO with Liquidation onto the opposing Kilowattrel. And now Dondozo can start getting some stuff done in this game.
Yeah, it's really interesting because you think that without Tatsugiri, Dondozo's special defense is at sometimes abysmal, but even going for that Terra Bug and not resisting that Make It Rain anymore, it still very comfortably took that. But here comes Endeavor.
Here's Endeavor, and I love this play from Kirsten.
Oh, this is a great play.
She might be at -2 special attack on her Golden Go, but it doesn't matter because of the unaware Dondozo. And because she tricked away her choice specs, can change moves, click the power gem there, completely take advantage of the Terra Bug, and now it is just this Rotom trying to fend for itself. It's going to be a Volt Switch, its most consistent damage, but it won't be enough.
Take the knockout.
Wow, and there really aren't priority options on Dakota's side either, so something else is just going to come in and get Endeavor down.
Okay, so we see the fourth in the Alola Ninetales. It's coming out in a bit of an awkward state in this game because now that you've lost the Dondozo and now that the Garganacl is at such low health, you don't have a consistent answer for really doing damage into the Golden Go.
Yeah, there really isn't a ton that Dakota can do from this position, unfortunately for his side. The Kilowattrel, you would assume still is going to be faster than the Alola Ninetales on Dakota's side. Naturally it is a faster Pokemon, but could be trained in a different way and depend on the Ninetales as well. But assuming the Kilowattrel is faster, this is another pretty free just Tailwind. I
don't know if you saw that, but
I was going to say attack with Golden Go, but we are going to see the second duck on this team. Double Duck now on the field. Looks a little bit different than Generation 9.
Oh, yeah.
But Kilowattrel will protect this turn.
Crucially, we did finally see the Stealth Rocks proc and do a little bit of damage. And so Dakota taking this turn of relatively passive play to punish and set up that Aurora Veil and go for Assault Cure into the Goldango slot and now becoming that Quaquaval, you still take that boosted chip because it occurs to both Water and Steel types.
Yeah, it's 25% of Quaquaval's HP now gone. This is the power of the team that Dakota's running, is when it works, you can get a Quaquaval or something to switch in. Quaquaval hasn't even been on the field an entire turn, has already lost about 35-40% of his HP.
And I think this is the condition that Dakota was exactly playing for. You know, being able to kind of mitigate Golden Ghost's damage output, even if it took it, tricking its specs away, having to set up Aurora Veil, you know, getting Endeavored. You're in this position now where if you want to just play passive and just like protect and build up your bulk more and more, you can get away with all of the Salt Cure damage. And as we see Kilowattrel getting knocked out, this Aqua Step does just enough, even with the Aurora Veil, even with how physically bulky Garganacl is, you still take the KO this turn. So a little bit of a one-for-one trade, and the Moxie boost means that it may even be a little bit positive in Kirsten's favor.
Oh, certainly. And we did get some confirmation that turn. Kilowattrel is, in fact, faster than Dakota's Ninetales. The Endeavor got off before Ninetales KO'd that Pokemon. The other kind of strength of Kirsten's team is, as we were mentioning, all of the strong offensive pieces on it. You can just further enable that, and especially enable this Quaquaval by clicking a low health Endeavor into a Pokemon and then Aqua Stepping that. You get the speed boost from Aqua Step, you get the Moxie boost, the boost to your attack after getting the KO, and that Quaquaval is dancing a lot happier than it was just one turn prior. With that speed boost, now should be the fastest thing on the field, and really just gets to take its pick on which of these two Pokemon Dakota's side that it wants to knock out.
Yeah, I think the big difference maker in this matchup is that Endeavor Kilowattrel, because when you're faced with all of these walls and you don't know how to really just decrease their HP with really any move, just use Endeavor. Get hit down to just about your sash range and bring a Dondozo down to 60 health, and bring a Ninetales down to 4 health. And so now we see going for a little bit more of a defensive play. I assume going for more of that Salt Cure chip. Does Salt Cure still work?
Salt Cure does stay active. We did see that at the end of last turn, too. The Salt Cure does stay active even after Dondozo is fainted. It's why it's such a strong mechanic in this game.
Look at that. That was in Aurora Veil, non-choice specs, Make It Rain, going into that Rotom. Did 5%?
Oh! Whoa. And does land the Hydro Pump. Get some good damage there. The Quaquaval's still not going to be knocked out after that turn. If you are in Dakota's position, though, if you can land a double protect with this alone, the Ninetales, a 1 in 3 chance, the Quaquaval, if it stays on the field this turn, will knock itself out to Salt Cure Recoil.
Oh,
you do get the double protect.
He gets it!
Okay.
So now there is nothing
now
that can really be done to check this Rotom, because if you're Kirsten, you want to get rid of that Alolan Ninetales. It's the only thing that's faster than it right now with that boost.
Yeah, this -1 special attack Power Gem goes off on the Rotom.
Right down to that Citrus Berry.
You're just going to make the Rotom healthier now, assuming that the Rotom is going to target down the Golden Go once again. We'll pick up that knockout.
And it goes for that Volt Switch, picks up the knockout, doesn't pivot because there's only 2 Pokemon left, but now you're in an even more advantageous position. With this Salt Cure chip, you go down to a 1v2, and in a previously looking unwinnable scenario, Dakota plays just passive enough so that chip made a difference.
Yeah, and to Dakota's credit, finding exactly the out that he had, I think the only out that he had there. Kirsten has not terastallized yet in this game, but the Terra Ground on Garchomp isn't going to be doing a ton for you here in front of the Ice-type Alolan Ninetales. That naturally is much faster than the Garchomp. Knows Terra coming out here, and that Freeze Strike is going to... Oh! It didn't matter anyway. The Garchomp will feint to Life Orb Recoil regardless.
Right.
But certainly a very funny turn in a lot of ways with the freeze.
You have to think, if you went for that terastallization to ground, you would have at least had a little bit more staying power. Because if they went for that Will-O-Wisp, they would have to bank on hitting another freeze dry and then hitting something like that Hydro Pump, because there was no other damage option.
Yes, we did see Kirsten lock into that turn prior Rock Slide with the Garchomp, which I think is absolutely the right play.
Of course.
You're able to pick up the KO on the Alolan Ninetales after you survive that hit, and you get a little bit of chip damage on Rotom, but most importantly, the 30% chance to flinch that Pokemon, and if you can flinch it, between the 30% chance to flinch and the Rotom is being strictly reliant on inaccurate moves, it gives you a lot of potential outs there for Kirsten's side. You know, either dodging a Hydro Pump, dodging a Will-O-Wisp, or getting the flinch.
And that's kind of the thing with these sorts of teams is that when you're playing these long games, you do open yourself up to that variance. Those 30% chances, if they happen to happen 4 or 5 times, it's going to happen. And so I think it's really interesting. I mean, one thing about me that we both know is that I will play for those rock slide flinches.
And he's good at it. Let me tell you, he's real good at it.
But yeah, I think looking into this team, I'm kind of wondering the adaptation that is made on Kirsten's side, because the game plan was so good. And even like tricking the specs away, I mean, would it have been better to just go for the make it rain, clear the Garganackle without getting that damage reduction, and then not being able to be so susceptible to the Salt Cure, bringing your Steel type and your Water type sweepers? And it's not like there is much of another option. You have the King Gambit, but it's susceptible to the same exact thing.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. The 3 Pokemon on Kirsten's side that you really want to bring into this matchup, at least offensively, the Golden Go, the King Gambit, and the Quaquaval, all do get hit for 25% of their health each turn by the Salt Cure. So I think for Dakota's side and what he, I guess didn't end up playing towards exactly, but what he could is towards that Garganackle as the end game. And I mean, he still was able to get off the Salt Cure onto the Quaquaval as it switched in, got that very, very important Salt Cure onto the Quaquaval.
Of course, and let's see. Same lead from Dakota's side.
Yeah, we are in Game 2 now.
We're in Game 2.
We are in Game 2 with the Rotom and Garganackle for Dakota and the Kilowattrel and Golden Go on Kirsten's side. Same exact leads.
But how do they play it differently?
If you're in, let's say you're in Kirsten's shoes, what is the adjustment here this time?
I think you do kind of just want to go for the make it rain. You want to play to clear the Garganackle, but conversely, if I'm Dakota, I think I see that Kirsten realized that was such the threat, leaving it alive. So maybe they go for the terrestrialization to Ghost, and then they're able to just click Salt Cure instead. Because honestly, Stealth Rock wasn't that valuable. And in the case where you get tricked those choice specs, you're able to just keep Salt Curing and keep doing damage to whatever's in that slot. Yeah, Let's see a more passive play coming from Kirsten.
Kirsten, once again, playing a little bit longer game, baits out the Protect from the Garganackle. That's very good, as the Kilowattrel also protected just prior, and it will be the Make It Rain immediately. With the choice spec still on Golden Go, this will do pretty significant damage to the Rotom. I thought it would, at least.
I mean, if we saw last game, the Aurora Veil non-choice specs, it did about that damage. And we see a little bit of a better turn 1 play coming from Dakota, playing more to scout out what exactly that Golden Go is going to lock into as they switch into Incineroar.
Yes, and importantly from Dakota's side, because the Kilowattrel is not competitive, and because there is no King Gambit brought last game, frees up the Incineroar a little bit more on his side to bring that over, and he did bring that over either the Alolan Ninetales or the Dondozo, which I thought both of those Pokemon were pretty important for him last game.
For sure.
I am curious to see which one was left behind here.
Crucially, another thing is that since that Make It Rain only hit the Rotom and the Garganackle protected, it is now able to just tank that at -1, because we saw with the choice specs tricked off, it was essentially the same amount of damage. So knowing that won't get the KO, Kirsten decides instead to switch into Quaquaval.
And this is a pretty advantageous position for Quaquaval to come into. You don't have to worry about being intimidated by the Incineroar because it's already on the field. And you hit both these Pokemon super effectively with both of your same type attack bonus moves. The Kilowattrel is forced to terrestrialize to become a Ghost type here in front of the Incineroar with Fake Out active. And we're going to see the terrestrialization on Dakota's side, likely the Garganackle, to get around even the -1 Make It Rain, still going to do a lot of damage to that Pokemon.
Not only that, but Endeavor cannot affect it now, because if you're Dakota reading this and go for maybe a Flare Blitz, which doesn't happen, but if that gets brought down to Sash, it can no longer chip down that Garganackle as efficiently.
Yeah, the Tailwind coming out from Kirsten as the Terra Ghost does avoid the Fake Out from the Incineroar, and Salt Cure comes out, hits into the Quaquaval once again. Going to be taking a lot of chip at the end of this turn. And oh yeah, and I'd forgotten that Quaquaval did switch in again. So the second time in 2 games now that Dakota has caught the Quaquaval switch in with the Salt Cure.
It can be caught, but also at the same time, you're not really putting yourself in a bad position if you're Salt Curing that Golden Go slot.
Oh no.
for
No,
sure.
it's a very, very safe play for Dakota to
I was going
make.
to say this. I think that the play here was maybe like a Thunderbolt in a close combat to make sure that you hit with the charge and you proc that Moxie as you finish that knockout, as we know the speed interactions. But going for, wow, that charge Thunderbolt.
And that's how you know that the charge was not active at the beginning of last game, is because that's how much damage. It doubles the power of your electric type moves, the next electric type move.
But instead going for the Aqua Step, maybe not reading into that switch in.
Yeah.
Kind of going further to realize that King Gambit is probably not in the back. You've scared away the steals enough, and that these two have come. You want to have something that isn't that weak to the Garganackle in the back.
Yeah, so Dakota preserving the Intimidate with Incineroar. Rotom does lose pretty much all of its HP, but this Garganackle still very, very healthy, and with 2 Salt-Cured Pokemon right in front of it.
Yeah, and they're just going to keep chipping and chipping away, and you can only do so much to mitigate that. And now as we see this this Rotom on this side does have Protect, so they can just continue to stall out. There isn't much that can be done. The Incineroar could come and switch back in and catch the Quaquaval with an Intimidate, but even then, you know, it's not doing so much.
Yeah, and Dakota, with the Garganackle, still pretty free just to keep clicking Salt Cure into, you know, at least one of these 2 Pokemon, just to try to catch whatever wants to switch in. For Kirsten, of course, something's going to want to switch out. You want to try to either get a second Tailwind up later, or, you know, just reset the Salt Cure, you know, stacks.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it would be like safe to go for a double protect there, but I think Dakota has really intelligently realized that Garganackle has just been sitting here unthreatened, and it's going to continue to do that for the rest of the game with this Terastallization to Ghost. Because if you're playing in his shoes, you've realized that you've really scared away the King Gambit. Otherwise, it definitely would have come out at this point, you know, to maybe catch that Incineroar on the switch-in. But now that you know all 4, and now that you're Terastallized to Ghost, you don't have a weakness from this team. You can't get Endeavored. The Shadow Balls are going to be essentially neutral because of Purifying Salt. There isn't much that can be done to outpace this Garganackle.
Yeah, and the Quaquaval, if it stays on the field, will faint at the end of this turn because of that Salt Cure still being active. So that allows Dakota to play pretty safely into that slot. You just can kind of leave it alone and just Salt Cure into the Garchomp.
Yeah, you can Salt Cure the Garchomp. You can get a pretty free switch into Incineroar here. You may take a good amount of damage, but I think...
Yeah, I don't know if the switch into Incineroar is necessary here. I think this might be just a little bit of an overextension. Yes, you get the Intimidate down on both these physical attackers, but the Rotom, whenever it comes back in, is going to be slower than everything on Kirsten's side anyway. I think at that point, would rather just sacrifice the Rotom, let Incineroar come in with Fake Out active and Intimidate the next turn, because you know, the Garchomp is really only going to be doing damage either to this Incineroar on the switch-in, or to the Garganackle, and you don't care too much about that on either end.
I'm very surprised that it was a double into Rotom with 2 moves that neither would have hit the Incineroar for super effective damage. Because I think if I'm in that position and Dakota is playing so passively, they're going to just continue to pivot around, mitigate the damage. But going for both Dragon Claw and that Brave Bird, you chip yourself more, and you don't really threaten a KO at all on that Incineroar. So now it's a 3 against 4, and that Garg is still going to continue to chip.
And still, yes, not many things threaten this Garganackle. You do, of course, still have the Fake Out active with Incineroar. You can, you know, Fake Out this Garchomp to prevent it from doing any damage here.
Yeah, and you take a little bit of Rough Skin chip, but at this point, I feel like it's basically negligible. I mean, with the Assault Vest, there's a good chance that you still live that Thunderbolt anyways. But Kirsten playing it safe, just going for that Protect, making sure they're not susceptible to Assault Cure in that slot, and going for that Thunderbolt.
Thunderbolt goes into Incineroar. Are we going to see? Yes, the
Darkest Lariat!
Oh, as soon as I saw no Fake Out, I was thinking, oh, what if he does just read the Protect on the Garchomp slot, get the Darkest Lariat? First time I've seen that animation outside of Sword and Shield.
And there we go.
And the Salt Cure going into the Garchomp's Protect.
Yeah, because if you're in Dakota's position, you really don't have much to lose from going for these plays, because you're up so advantageously with Pokemon that, like, really don't threaten this Garganackle that much. No. You're at a -1 Garchomp and a Golden Go that, sure, like, its weaker defense is the special defense, but with no weakness to any of its moves, what do you do?
Yeah, with this Garganackle now, you just have free Salt Cure into whichever slot you want. The Golden Go cannot protect. The Garchomp just protected last turn, so it could go for the double, but even then, you have a 2/3 chance to hit that anyway.
So
I think
Incineroar
this
switches for the Rotom again.
Yes, this is the Rotom sacrifice. I think that is absolutely correct. Just
This
to
is
get
the balance plays we love to see.
oh,
Going for that protect on the Garganacl.
protect with Garganacl. I like that because you do still scout what this Golden Go is going to lock into. Because the Rotom is knocked out, now if the Golden Go clicks Make It Rain here, it will not drop its special attack, which is very valuable.
But it goes for that Shadow Ball.
It goes for Shadow Ball. So yes, so you do at least get to see what the Golden Go is going to lock itself into, scout for the potential trick.
And crucially, you have the Incineroar coming back in. Not yet, but it can still continue to lower the attack on that Garchomp and make the damage even more negligible.
Yes, well, I think Ninetales is also extremely safe here because you know that you're faster than the Garchomp. You can click Blizzard. It will KO the Garchomp in this range because it's stronger than the Freeze Dry.
And Golden Go can't click Make It Rain anymore.
Golden Go cannot click Make It Rain. It will not be able to knock out either of these Pokemon this turn, barring a critical hit. And you can then click your Salt Cure into the Golden Go slot. And you should be fine. The Aurora Veil.
Now let's see how much the Specs Shadow Ball does into a Ghost type. On paper, you would think it would do so much damage, but looking now, 25%, maybe 30? I'll say 30. I'll be charitable.
A generous 30%.
Yeah, and just going for that Salt Cure. Honestly, Golden Go's taking more damage this turn than the Garganacl did.
Oh my goodness, yes.
That is so much chip. And now you're in this position where Ninetales just kind of goes for Blizzard. There isn't much you can do about this.
Ninetales goes for Blizzard, Garganacl can protect, and that should just about wrap this thing up.
Well, given that it's a light clay set, I think the Blizzard wouldn't really do anything. Would it even take it down to that range? Yeah, I think it would live another Salt Cure chip. Maybe. No.
Sorry, I'm doing math in my head.
Me too.
What is a quarter of 182?
It's more than 40. So it may just be wraps here.
Right?
Okay.
Oh, yeah, because 40 would be a quarter of...
160.
160.
Welcome to math, everybody. And with that additional Salt Cure, that didn't make a difference. We figured that out. Golden Go goes down to that Salt Cure chip, and that is the end of round 2.
Yeah, Dakota Kelly breathing himself a sigh of relief, and rightfully so after that. Fell behind so quickly in Game 1 of this set, and in Game 2 really had to make some calls. I think especially those turns with the Garchomp protecting was a real turning point. Dakota had a very strong turn 1 and turn 2, but especially getting the extra Salt Cures down while the Garchomp was protecting, knocking out the Kilowattrel. Extremely, extremely valuable just to put this thing away.
I think you mean Darkest Lariat.
What did I say?
Knockoff.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
But anyways, I think it was really interesting because both players were playing very reactively to each other. But in a matchup where you're playing so reactively, I think the one that wins is the one who can just continue to whittle down. And between a Rocky Helmet Garganacl that chips away 25% of like half of your Mons, and going with like something like that Dondozo that ultimately did not come to the latter game made a lot of sense for that win con of the Alolan Ninetales. It's a lot about conditioning, trying to convince the player to not bring that King Gambit so that you can continue to punish with that Alolan Ninetales in the back. And just when you thought it was like futile to really chip away at that Garganacl, Aurora Veil comes up, and then it's just turbo over.
And it's completely, just so hard for anything to hit a Terra Ghost Garganacl, but especially the Pokemon that Kirsten had left in that game. With that, Dakota Kelly now 2-0 on the day with this Soak Dondozo and Rocky Helmet Garganacl team. So excited to see how he can continue that.
I really want to see how far he can go today.
I would love to see Dakota on stream again, and we'll see that maybe a little bit later. We're going to take a short break before we get back with round 3.